Hello everybody. This is developer workshop number. I don't know how many. I really should go back and count so there's some more clarity to all of this, but that doesn't matter. I'm Emily. I do DevRel for Linea, but here today we're have a really special guest, so please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Leo. I'm the founder and CEO of Owl Protocol. And Owl Protocol is trying to bring access to Web3 development to every developer in the world. Because today, there's a lot of devs that have to, they're interested in building on blockchain, but there's a lot of tooling that is kind of, trying to help devs, but is never fits everything, right? So you might have solutions that help you create wallets, other solutions that help you deploy wallets, other solutions that help you not have to pay for gas fees. What we do is we essentially try to combine all of those as a single Web2 API. So you don't need like Web3 tooling, you don't need to like store private keys and stuff like that, but still very secure. And you always have the option to go to like a more non-custodial solution, right? If you want to be like, if you're an organization that's like using like multi-sigs and stuff like that. But fundamentally, you should be able to be a Web2 developer and easily deploy and integrate smart contracts, and then also integrate Web2 solutions, right? So we also have like a few native solutions we're working on, such as like Shopify and other point of sale systems. And so our vision is that anyone can build on blockchain, and we support a lot of different blockchains, including Linea, and a lot of different smart contract standards, right? Some of the famous ones like ERC20, ERC721, but also integrations with Chainlink, for example, if you want like Oracle integrations very easily. So yeah, I think that covers most of our features. I have a presentation here. That briefly goes through like our design philosophy, and then we might have also a demo on Linea showcasing like how everything works.
Yes, absolutely. We're gonna hop into the what is Owl Protocol and how does it work, and slides are probably the best way to illustrate architecture. So, uh, I'll go ahead and start sharing your screen. We can check out your slides.
Cool. So, like I said, essentially, Owl Protocol has as a core goal to enable Web3 for every business through a simple API. So that could mean you're building Web3 game, right, with like NFT assets and stuff. You're building real world assets. If you're building like energy certificates, property certificates, stuff like that. And also just like e-commerce and loyalty. If you're trying to incentivize users, similar to things that like Starbucks has built, right? But Starbucks had to have like a whole team of Web3 devs. The idea here is you can build something like this much more easily. And obviously, you can launch on Ethereum if you want to, but like because like our use cases are heavily focused around like utility based, for like the average Web2 user. We enable wallets where you can log in with Google, etc. We recommend you using like layer twos that are like very efficient. I saw. By the way, I saw a chat in the chat. There's a question about like POAPs. I don't know if Lydia has that integrated, but hey, potentially we could build an integration with like YouTube API or something like that, and do something like that. Anyways, I don't know. I'm spitballing like use cases. So yeah, so the idea of Owl API is like simplifying your blockchain interactions via a simple REST API. So what that means is that first of all, you don't have to use any custom tooling. Right? The devs are really familiar with using like simple REST APIs. If you're using like Stripe API, Amazon API, something like that. It also means that you can use any programming language. So we recommend using our TRPC SDK that for TypeScript, but you can definitely use something like Go, Rust, even Java, and that kind of enables a lot of these kind of businesses that use different tech stacks to not have to like throw everything in the garbage, right? They can integrate their own existing backend with their API. Beyond that, like you have to struggle about like a gas or faucets. So for example, in our demo, you just sign up and like you get an API key, and then we already have a faucet of our own that's like funded through the Linea faucet, but then we'll pay for your gas, right? So on testnet, that's going to be free. And then once we launch on mainnets, you'll be able to pay for those transaction fees in fiat. So that makes it much easier to get deployed on chain. And then obviously you don't have to run your blockchain node. We have our own RPC connections. And critically, you don't have to worry about private keys. So under the hood, we use an MPC provider. So that stands for multi-party compute, which means that your private key never really exists. It's actually split up in multiple servers, and we don't hold access to that. We use a provider called a DFNS, a pretty popular MPC provider that's sponsored like Ethereum hackathons and stuff like that. And so, through a simple API, you can like deploy smart contracts, and we're also building a dashboard where you'll be able to manage and view those, right? So our core focus is the API. So it's not like no code, but you can still see some of your activity. Yeah, dashboard. So, I mentioned like the ease of use of the API, but like fundamentally you do get access to, you're not just like minting NFTs. Like there's a few APIs where you can mint simple NFTs. You get a lot of access to advanced smart contracts and wallets. So for example, we deploy a smart wallet. So everyone's heard about like wallet abstraction. What that means is your wallet is a smart contract now, and it creates a lot of powerful use cases. So for example, you don't have to pay for gas. So that's a big thing. But also you can do batch transactions where where like the user might do multiple transactions, right? So you in one go. So you've thought about, you've seen like UXs where like the user has to like approve a token, then transfer a token, then do some other smart contract interaction. Here, that can all be bundled as one transaction. And yeah, there's already smart wallet solutions out there. I'm sure you've heard of like Gnosis Safe, and actually we use Gnosis Safe under the hood. But if you want to use Gnosis, you have to like integrate their SDK and stuff like that. Us, like we do that for you, right? You just make the API call and the transaction gets automatically bundled. Beyond that, we also have like pretty advanced smart contracts in terms of upgradability. So let's just say you deploy a smart contract, but then like you want to add additional features. Well, since you have the admin key, of course you can always revoke that. But if you still have the admin key, you can optionally choose to like upgrade its features, and that's very useful because like developers are used to like in Web2 space, they're used to be able to like easily upgrade their code, right? Like if you update a website, and that's not always the case with smart contracts, but if you use proxy architectures, you can do that. And another cool feature is like if you're deploying like on multi-chains, right? Let's just say you're launching on testnet, you have your users test things out, and you deploy on mainnet, you can have smart contracts be on the same address across chains. So that's a pretty cool feature because like I'm sure you've seen like protocols where like they have like a whole page of like 50 contract addresses for like every network, but here you can have it like on the same address. And then fundamentally, yeah, we're building Web2 integrations like Shopify, where you can like have triggers based on like Shopify purchases. And we have a demo video I can walk through. So how it works, so this is a bit advanced. Like when you're using the API, you don't have to think about this, right? But if there's any like technical people that want to understand, or if you want to learn a bit more about how this works under the hood and how you get a Web2 experience, but it's still like doing blockchain. This is the general architecture. So essentially, you do authenticated API calls through your API key, and then our connection to our MPC provider will get you your stored address, right? So MPC, you can think of this as like kind of like Stripe, like the same way that Stripe stores credit cards. So this stores the ability to sign securely. And like I said, the private key never actually exists in memory. It's split across networks and uses threshold signatures. Then that address, this creates an account to deploy from. Yes, so this is how we. So the MPC creates like a EOA, so an externally owned account. So that is like same to like an account you might have on MetaMask. But then we also deploy a smart contract for you, which is the safe wallet. So when you sign up, this gets auto deployed for you, and then your MPC will sign the transaction because it's the owner of the safe. But the MPC address never pays for gas, because when you're using smart wallets, anyone can submit the transaction as long as the transaction inside is signed. That's what it's like called a meta transaction. It's this transaction inside of a transaction. And our reeler will just pay for the gas. So that's why you don't need any crypto or anything like that to deploy smart contracts. And your smart wallet will then interact with other contracts. So this could be like deploying an NFT, minting an NFT. You could bundle these, right? Like let's just say you want to deploy 5 contracts, you can do that in one transaction. So that's the under the hood architecture. If you have any technical questions, you can join our Discord and stuff like that. There'll be the QR code at the end. So like I said, what are the use cases of our API? So like I said, you can do real world assets, brand loyalty, gaming, and even though our API is heavily developer focused, but we're also building user facing products as well, where you'll have like UI components, but also same technology for the wallets for users. So you can have users log in with Google. So I'm sure or like there's other products that do social logins. The main benefit here is like other things will be heavily integrated with your existing dev stack, so you can have the wallets interact with your contracts easily. So now we have a brief, this would be like how you deploy an NFT collection. And we have a GitHub, and we'll walk through on our API. But what I wanted to do today was showcase. Show the docs. Oh, yeah. First, I'll go through our docs, but then we'll showcase a demo of how to use this. So you can go to if you go to docs-api-allprotocol.xyz, I can send this in the chat, I think. You have access to the public chat?
I don't know if it'll send. You can just send it in the private chat, and I'll send it to the public chat.
Yeah, so here are our docs, and essentially we have a few guides here that show you, walk through everything. And you can check out our recipes. So these showcase deploying various smart contracts on any network you're choosing, including Linea. And this is the list of all of our API routes. So this is like very, I would recommend going through the recipes first because they tell you step by step. But if you're a bit more advanced and you want to use a specific type of smart contracts, things like basic NFTs, but also like chain link integrations, royalties, integrations with Shopify, you can walk through these APIs, and you'll notice like we have support for like a lot of programming languages because it's just an API. Yeah, I guess I've walked through a lot. So do you have any questions or from the chat or Emily, do you have any questions? Oh, and Clarence also shared our GitHub repo where we have a starter template.
Yeah, so I have a question. Does the way this work is mostly we're thinking about projects that have more common NFT or contract use cases, right? So none of this would actually be for someone who's interested in writing like very complex kind of custom contracts, right?
Yeah, so great question. So we are working on a solution where you can like upload your own contract and we generate the API routes, because the way our existing API is built is the API routes are auto-generated. So we take your artifact and generate the API routes. In the meantime, you can use the wallet solution standalone, which means that like you would deploy the contract, but you still use the wallet for any other interaction. Especially like let's just say you have a custom contract, and okay, Web3 because like you have a custom contract, right? Like you know how to write Solidity, but you want other developers to be more to be able to more easily interact with your smart contract. That could be a good way to distribute your smart contract, right? Because otherwise you have to write a guide where like you have to install Web3, they have to compile the contract, all that stuff. So if you contact us, we can manually do it right now, and then we're working on a solution where you just upload it and it gets added to the API. There's some security considerations there where like, if anyone can upload a contract and then it's like a fraudulent contract and like people start interacting with it, it has some security implications because like these contracts, like we trust them, right? We can document them and tell you this is how it works. But if someone can upload their custom contract and share it publicly, then it has some security implications. But yeah, the wallet solution you can definitely use. So you could be like, signing transactions, custom transactions with that, right? So that would be a more bare bones use case. Obviously, like our focus is especially on like getting those Web2 devs, right, onboarded. So there's like 20 million software engineers. There's like less than 100K Web3 developers. So that's kind of our vision.
Oh, there's this. If you guys want to sign up and get an API key, you can go through the dashboard. But oh yeah, so I guess on the contract portion too, are like what contracts are you using? Are these like Open Zeppelin contracts?
Great question.
Or
So yeah, so at its core, yes. But so at its core, most of the transactional logic, like transfers and stuff like that, is Open Zeppelin, except for like the smart wallet. So the smart wallet is Gnosis Safe. But then there's a few additional things we add like on top. So one thing we have is, so I don't know if you're familiar with like CryptoKitties, which has the idea of on-chain DNA. So like, people think, oh, it's a regular NFT, but it's much more advanced than most NFTs where the metadata of the NFT is actually stored on chain. And that's very useful because like you can build smart contracts like CryptoKitties had the breeding, right? Where like you can combine NFTs and the smart contract would read the metadata directly on chain and create and use CryptoKitties. But you can do something else where like maybe a user deposits 100 tokens and their NFT upgrades or something like that. And so what we have is a data standard for encoding data into NFTs. Specifically, this is like the token DNA smart contract. I mean, this is the interface, but if you deploy a contract that has that enabled, and I believe we have a recipe, or if not, it's going to be coming out soon. This creates like an NFT that instead of storing the metadata on like IPFS or some server, the metadata is being stored on the smart contract. It's being stored like very efficiently. So we just store like binary data. So not like, you don't store the picture, but if the NFT has a property that's like maybe like, I don't know, it's like a tier where it's like bronze, silver, gold, that data will be stored on chain as like 0, 1, 2. And then you can write logic about like how that data changes and stuff like that. Obviously, like, again, once we're adding these functionalities, there's a lot more logic you have to build. So that's why we're building the APIs on top to enable that use case. So for gaming, this is very interesting. Or real world assets, right? If you're building like derivatives products and stuff like that, that have like custom attributes that have to be on chain. So I think our CTO Clarence will walk through the demo, but in the meantime, I do want to showcase the Explorer. So this is on Linea. So this is our relayer. So you'll notice, just deployed on Linea. And so all of your transactions are actually getting like submitted by the relayer, but the relayer doesn't like sign anything. It does it pays for the gas. And so you'll notice here we have like a transaction that says like create proxy with nonce. And so this is the smart wallet deployment. So this deployed.
Can you zoom in a bit? Those words are very small and my eyes are very bad.
So I can click the transaction.
Yeah.
And so this deploys a Gnosis Safe smart wallet. So we don't have it verified yet, but because I don't think Gnosis Safe has verified the contracts on Linea yet, so we have to verify it. But essentially, this is a Gnosis Safe smart wallet. We'll verify it like later tonight, so you don't have to trust us. We do have, but the idea is you get a smart wallet, and the smart wallet is then used to execute transactions on behalf of the user, right? So the user is the owner. Your NPC wallet is the owner of the smart wallet, and is executing transaction. And this transaction, for example, was a mint transaction that minted a ERC 721. And you can see here, if I share this tab. Oh, sorry, I forgot to share my tab. But this is the NFT that was deployed, and we, if we look at the transactions, yeah, you can see here there's an internal transaction. But one thing you'll notice is there are no external transaction, meaning there never was a transaction that hit that contract directly, because it always goes through this flow of going through the smart wallet of the user, right? And so this is where and this is not just us, right? This is how most of wallet abstraction works, which is like you end up hitting the smart wallet contract and then doing all of your blockchain interactions, and enables a lot of custom logic. So in the future, we're gonna probably build solutions where you can add additional security modules, where you can set budgets on like how much gas you're spending, or like let's just say you're storing a lot of money on your smart wallet. You could say like, oh, I can only spend up to like $100 a week. And so if there's ever a problem, you still like have that insurance. And this is very interesting, especially on the user facing side of things, because today wallets have like improved. Like we have social logins, we have like gasless transactions, but you always need to like ask for approval from the user. Like they get all these pop-ups. And in my view, like the ideal UX is a solution where the user just clicks buttons and things get auto approved. But if you want that, there's always a security consideration, right? Which is like, okay, what if the UX is like pulling all of my funds? And so if you can set up these rules, you can have like a good mix of security and usability. Where like if I connect to OpenSea, maybe OpenSea can trade my NFTs automatically because I trust OpenSea, and then it has to ask approval like once a week or something like that. I mean, that's more like very new ideas that we have, but I think a few protocols are thinking about that as well.
There are some questions. So
Yeah.
are deployed contracts auto magically verified?
Yeah. So great question. So the way it works is like because you're deploying the same implementation. So if you're deploying a custom token, you have to custom contract, you'd have to verify it. But because you're deploying the same smart contract, what ends up happening on Explorers is the bytecode will be exactly the same. So once we verify it once, which is like the implementation, it will auto be detected. So like this is why like technically we never verified, like technically this this contract was never like manually verified. We never verified like this address specifically. Um, you'll notice like this contract matches deployed bytecode of the source contract, and this is our implementation contract. So this is like the template, if you will, that gets copied. Because if you're using proxies, you're actually not deploying the bytecode itself. You're deploying a proxy that points to the bytecode. So we give you the option. You can use like proxies or you can not use proxies. So it's up to your use case. If you don't want the contract to ever be upgradable, you can just like deploy a regular contract, but still be verified. If you want to be able to upgrade the contract, you can deploy a proxy, and that makes it like upgradable. But yeah, everything gets verified automatically.
I see. Okay, cool. And then another question about metrics of API calls.
Great question. So on the metric side, like we're not focused on like we're not focused on like big metrics, like read metrics. Like if you want like a lot of metrics, like I would just recommend using the graph on top, right? Like that's like read only metrics. We do track a few things like the contracts you've deployed, transactions that hit your contract, especially because like it's not as simple as like filtering transactions because like of the meta transaction, right? Like if you the transactions they all on chain, they just look like they are hitting your smart wallet, and then you have to like dive deep into the transaction. So we just index that automatically for you. But if you want like a lot of analytics, aggregation, I would just use the graph on top, right? The graph protocol. I don't know if it's launched on Linea yet, but that's great for like big analytics, right? Our use case is much more like there's a lot of APIs that do indexing. Our use case is much more for like deploying contracts and having that ease of use.
Another question. I guess it's more a question about safe, but
Yeah, 4337. Yeah, safe is 4337 compatible. So this is like give me a second. My page is loading. Safe global. How do I share my tab?
just go back to share screen.
Yeah, so this is the contract we use under the hood. Like we didn't come up with our own smart wallet solution because that would be like whole security. So we just deploy Gnosis Safe, and Gnosis Safe is 4337 compatible. The only difference is like we deploy the contracts ourselves because I don't believe Safe has deployed on Linea yet, and we're like I'm not going to wait for them to deploy, so I just like recompiled and deployed it. But yeah, we use Gnosis Safe, so it's 4337 compatible. But really, like, I mean, you could use 4337. Like, my point is like 4337. There's two parts to it, right? There's like the smart wallet itself, and there's the alternative mempool. Right now, we're not dealing with that because like it's not really mature, especially on like something like Linea, where like I believe that I don't think there's a alternative like mempool yet. But you could like use it if you wanted to, but you'd have to submit it yourself, right? So you'd have to have like your own blockchain connection. But that's you always have the option to just like sign and submit the transaction on your own, right? Like you submit it to the blockchain. The simple way is like you just make the API call and it gets auto submitted. But yeah, so 4337 compatible.
Cool. There is another question here. Are deployed contracts automatically locked in and renounced?
Yeah, so this is what I was mentioning about like proxies, right? So by default, the default behavior is you're just deploying a contract, so there's no like proxy. So your MPC wallet controls that. Sorry, your smart wallet controls that. And this is what I was saying at the beginning, where like you're not locked into the API. Obviously, if you don't want to manage private keys, which I think you shouldn't, because like at the end of the day, like people say like, oh, it's a non-custodial wallet. Well, like if it's like a wallet that's like in memory on your server, like is it really non-custodial? Especially if you're talking like a big organization where now like the developer controls everything. So if by default you have an MPC wallet that controls the smart wallet, the smart wallet owns your contract. You could revoke admin keys on that if you want to, or you could also change the ownership of the smart wallet, right? So let's just say you want to start using MetaMask now. You could change the ownership of the smart wallet to your MetaMask and no longer use the MPC wallet. The challenge is there, like now you have to sign everything manually, right? So if you want to build a solution that's running on a server, you kind of have to have like some private key you can access immediately. But yeah, it's always up to you. If you're using proxies, again, it depends. Depends what type of proxies you want to use. So this is a bit advanced, but essentially there's three types of ways you can deploy with proxies. One is 1167, which is minimal proxies, which means that that's just to save gas. So if you want to pay less gas on deploying a contract, you can use a minimal proxy. Or you can use like a beacon proxy, which is like means it's upgradable. And there you have the choice. You can deploy your own beacon, which means that you decide what's the logic, or you can use our own beacon. And that has different trade-offs because that's our beacon. So like we control what implementation that points to. So it has trade-offs, right? Like if you're like, okay, if there's ever a security bug and our protocol like updates all contracts, we just update the beacon and everything's safe. Or you can deploy your own beacon, and then it's up to you to be proactive about upgrading the contract. So it depends. Like, do you want to be able to, if there's ever an emergency, we can upgrade everything, or do you want to just have a full contract? So by default, there's no upgradability, anyways. So that's more like for advanced users. But yeah, it's always like we give you the choice, right? Because like security is always a spectrum where like you can have full control, but then like you're going to take like a lot of effort, and there's a lot of ways you can mess up. Or you can kind of say like, okay, I trust our protocol to a certain degree, and I'll let them make things easier for me. Right now, we're just on testnet, so we're kind of hoping to get a lot of developer feedback on like what features people want. And this is kind of a new development paradigm in the sense that you're not like downloading Web3.js, you're not downloading ethers, just making API calls essentially.
Cool. Another question about the custom API calls. Are we able to submit them? Requests for it?
For custom API calls. So if you're talking about like adding new contracts and stuff like that, you can definitely talk to us, and we can see like if we believe it's something the whole community would benefit from, we could like integrate your contract. And then also we're working on that feature, like I said, where you can deploy your own, integrate your own contract. If you're talking about like custom, just like JSON RPC, like connect to a node, I don't think we have that yet, but we might enable a solution where you just get an RPC endpoint. But I mean, like, there's so many out there anyways that it's not like, I don't think it's super difficult for you to get an RPC endpoint. Does that, I don't know if that answers the question, but.
Yeah. So maybe in this pause, we can actually jump into a demo and see Owl Protocol.
Yeah, give me a sec.
Ooh.
Yeah, okay. I think Clarence is going to share a screen, but I'll talk over it, essentially.
Cool.
So, and can we show two screens at the same time or no?
Maybe I can try.
'Cause that could be very interesting to showcase. 1 second. Because I wanted to show the relayer as it submits transactions on chain, and then the
Yeah.
so oh. All right, Clarence, can you, are you showing? Okay, cool. Oh, can I share my tab?
Yeah, you could try.
Is it possible to share too or no?
Let me see if I.
No.
I don't
All
know.
right, okay.
It looks really bad. We're gonna bail.
Maybe we'll show the Explorer later. Yeah. Okay, so this is our basic dashboard where you can just see your API key and stuff. And when you sign up, you get an API key, and you can read through our docs about how to use that. And so, okay, we're exposing our API key here in this demo, but it's not a big deal. But we're going to delete this user after, just by the way. But essentially, you
can we zoom in?
Climate tomorrow. And I'll mention that we sent in the GitHub our starter template, and we're also heavily active on Discord if people run into issues, because this is a new, on Linea, we just released this. I don't know how stable it'll be on Linea. Client's increasing his font right now. Can you?
What IDE is this? Is this intelligent?
This is JetBrains. I
JetBrains,
think,
okay.
yeah, intelligent. Yeah, intelligent. Yeah. All right, cool. So I don't know if any devs are familiar with TRPC, but TRPC is a simple like web framework for APIs. So that's what we use both for our backend and our TypeScript SDK. But you can also use any REST API, right? So it can be in JavaScript, but you can use any programming language with the REST API, so that makes it more flexible. TRPC is nice because it has a lot of like types and stuff if you're building a front end in React, but it really depends what you're trying to build, right? If you're building simple like a Web3 dApp, then it'll be very useful, but it might be you're building some backend service that's connecting your own custom Web2 backend to blockchain interactions. That's somewhere where like I think our solution shines, which is how do you build a system that connects to a Web2 server and is minting or interacting with smart contracts? So, all right, so Clarence now is running this simple JavaScript script, and the big thing is like there's just the API key, right? There's no like RPC endpoint. He's just passed in the network ID. There's no private keys. He doesn't need any crypto. Everything just connects to the API, and slowly we'll deploy the smart contract that he defined, which is 721 collection in this use case. And he uploads metadata as well. So this is deploying basic collection, but like I said, if you're looking for more advanced usage with like the on-chain metadata, that's also possible. Let me check here if the transaction got submitted. Yeah, so if I share so Clarence has the real error, and you can see, there we go. So that transaction got submitted, and you'll notice this is what's a bit annoying. So we're doing the indexing. We're working on the indexing to make it easier, because on the Explorer, all you see is like exec transaction. But if you click on the transaction, you'll be able to see like that this deployed if you go into logs, you should be able to see that this deployed a smart contract essentially. So this deploys like this transaction, like this is all the bytecode of your smart contract that was passed into the transaction for deployment. And then I believe the next thing is going to be, we're going to do a mint. And then, so the last we also submitted a mint transaction, I believe.
One second. There's a bug.
No, I see the mint transaction.
No, for reason your top-up amount.
Yeah, but go to Explorer. Go to Explorer. There was if you go into the Explorer.
The mint didn't work.
No, it did. I see the logs. Just go on the Explorer. Sorry, there's a bit of confusion, but if you go on the Reeler, you'll see that there's a mint transaction that got created. So in the logs. So if once we have more explorers that are like NFT explorers, we'd be able to showcase this on Linea. But essentially, you'll notice the transfer transaction that mints from address 0 and mints here we just minted it to address 1, but we could have put in any parameter, and we minted one instance of token ID 1. So this is basic, but like the point is that you can use like any smart contract. You can chain different interactions, and all through just simple API calls, right? So this is, especially if you're not like super familiar with Web3 and you're trying to get onboarded quickly, this will be a solution that can is very flexible for you, and you don't have to like bother about like bridging ETH to Linea. You can use the testnet immediately on mainnet. We are going to be offering like some free credits. It'll be reasonable. You're not getting like thousands of dollars in free ETH, but we'll give you some free credits to do transactions on mainnet, and then you'll also have the option to pay in fiat, essentially your gas expense. So this is like how a couple other gas abstraction solutions work. And then also you can interact with docs with our API. So that's another option. So we gave an example that is more programmatic, but if you go on our docs and you log in, I believe, I don't know if this is working right now, but I believe once you sign up with an API key, you should be able to log in and read data, but also maybe deploy contracts through the front end. that's not what we recommend doing, but it's a good way to like familiarize yourself with the API.
Yes.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, that's essentially it, I think, for the current state of our demo. But we're really focused on getting a lot of feedback from developers in terms of what contracts they want to integrate, what features would be key to them, and work with devs and understand what projects they're building. And we're always here to provide support as well. We have a kind of 8-person team, a lot of devs that can provide a lot of tips, especially if you're starting out.
Someone was asking if you have like a more comprehensive video tutorial. I'm assuming probably like a write-up as well, for
Yeah,
somebody who
so
would want to do something more in depth.
Yeah, so we have write-ups in our docs page, so the recipes, and then we're also coming out with a few Medium articles. So I would check out our Twitter and our Discord. So Clarence, I believe, sent our Discord. This is our Twitter, and if you go to discord.owl.build, you should be able to find it as well. So, or let me share my screen. If you just go to, I can share my screen, Emily. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
If you just go to discord.owl.build, where we can answer any questions you have, and we'll be sharing any write-ups there as well. Right now, we're trying to launch. We're going to be launching. You can already sign up, and we'll be launching our kind of public beta with devs that are on our Discord. And we might give you a few freebies for mainnet if you're there's a few things that you can't do right now on the free tier, but that you need additional access for. Cool. Yeah, that's essentially it. If there's any other questions, I'm open to answering them. But I think we're hitting the 40-minute mark, so I think we should wrap up soon.
Oh, there's one more here. In terms of payments for gas fees, will you store payment data that can be linked to a smart contract?
Yeah, use the link to an individual that can be used to link a smart contract to an individual or company. So for publishing a smart contract. So in terms of payment for gas fees, right now on testnet, it's unlimited. I mean, we'll probably put some limit because we don't want you to drain our faucet, but like it's essentially free. And on mainnet, so right now we haven't gotten this integrated yet, but you'll have the option to put in payment data like Stripe probably. That won't be linked on chain though. That is exclusively on our backend. So our backend checks like just does the account like how much gas have you spent, right? And checks like the USD value approximately, and we'll just charge you at the end of the month. But that's not exposed publicly in any way, right? People just see on chain that like our relayer paid for your transaction. That's it. If you want to build something like that, I don't know exactly. So one thing we're looking into is not to store the fiat payment data, but for you as an organization to be able to delegate your gas sponsorship to other individuals, so specifically users. So a lot of solutions out there, they'll be similar to us where like they give you an API key and you can like pay for gas. But what if like you have like a user that has MetaMask and you want to pay for their gas, right? So we're building a system where you can set up gas rules essentially and say like, if a user is interacting with my contracts, I'm willing to pay X amount of gas fee for them. And again, that logic is going to be probably stored on our backend. We might be able to figure out a way to do it on chain, but I would not recommend publishing the payment data on chain, right? So it'll always be like maybe like a hash that in our database is mapped to your payment data, something like that. I'm definitely interested in learning a bit more about what specifically would be interesting to you. But we don't want to expose like personally identifiable data on chain, especially payment data.
Okay.
Anything else?
Cool. I don't see anything else. Do you guys have anything else you want to say? Otherwise, I'll close the stream in 5 seconds.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot for listening, everyone. If you want to have any questions, you know where to find us. And very excited to be working with Linea and supporting Linear Network. Right now on testnet and soon to be mainnet.
Woohoo! Okay, cool. So I'm gonna count down from 5, and if no questions arrive, then I'm gonna click the end stream button. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.